All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I apologize in advance. I'm a little bit sick, so my voice might sound a little bit different today than normal. Um, it does mean I can talk a little bit deeper. Uh, but I got a bit of a sore throat, so in addition to my coffee, I have some delicious herbal tea. Anyway, we're not here to talk about me not feeling well. We're here to talk about the ACA. I think this is the 910. And I say I think it's the 910 because there are so many different ACAs floating around. I tend to forget which one we're on, and all the numbers are very similar. But this one is around ITSM and Jira Service Management. So you'll see those acronyms flying around. I've broken this ACA into 4 1 hour chunks. So for the next 4 weeks on Fridays, we'll be talking about it. And my goal is to get through all of the content necessary to pass that specific exam. So I'll talk about that as we go. But keep in mind the information we're going to talk about is beneficial to anyone in IT or support or service. So the concepts, especially for ITSM, are good for everybody, um, especially if you're using Jira Service Management, because we'll also talk about that. Welcome to everyone. We've got folks from all over the world, which I always think is amazing. Noreen, welcome from the Philippines. You are the furthest ahead in the time zone so far, so I hope your night's going well. And thank you, Kari, for the best wishes. I have 2 kids, so they're constantly sharing. All right, we are going to get started. This one will be a little bit more slide heavy because we'll be talking about concepts around ITSM, ITSM. I'll explain what that is as we go. By way of introduction, my name is Rob. I've worked in IT my entire career, starting off as the IT help desk student worker in university, where the first thing I did was literally just drag a giant CRT monitor around the campus and deliver it to somebody. Since then, I have been a traveling consultant. I've been a systems manager, a project manager. Um, I've written code. I've done many, many things. Most recently, though, I have shifted my career focus to become a freelance creator. I'm doing some contract work on the side, but I'll have a lot more time dedicated to these learnings. But you'll also hear me asking for your support a little bit more to help me continue to do this kind of thing. So if you are able to support the channel, I'll explain how that works later. And that would be appreciated. And one of those ways is by becoming a channel member. You get some great stuff there too. I've been in Atlassian for about 10 years now. Oh gosh, 12 years. I'm bad at math. And I hold several of their certifications. I'm working on them, and that's why I started these sessions, but I figured more people can benefit. And I do have some other IT related certifications, things like CompTIA's A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus, just to round out what I know. And the fun fact today is I used ITSM before I knew what it was, and I still only kind of know what it is. There's a lot to it. Many of you have already found the chat. That is the best way to communicate. But please use the chat to interact with each other. I absolutely love when the channel is talking to each other and supporting each other. That for me is the entire point of this. It's not just for you to listen to Rob babble on about something for an hour. It's for you all to get to know each other as well. So please use that chat. I will also be using some YouTube features. For example, I can start a question and answer, which I'll pop up a question right here very quickly. That question bar will sit at the top of the chat and just collect your responses. So you'll see me pop that up if I want to ask you all a question about something. You can click on that and just add in your response. What is your favorite color is a very simple example. But that will let me collect your questions, and then I can answer them all together. I'm doing this based on some feedback. The other thing you'll see me do is put up a little poll, and I'll put one up in a moment, just to kind of ask you, what do you think of something? How comfortable are you with something? If you aren't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. You'll get updates and notifications from me. And the easiest thing you can do to help me out is just like the stream. So just push that like button, little thumbs up, if you think this is useful. So I'll remind you a couple times if at any point you're like, hey, this is good content, Rob, push the like button. That helps other people find this. The other thing you can do is you can share the video. I guarantee you work with someone or you know someone who can benefit from this knowledge, so please feel free to share it. All right, on to our content. As I mentioned, we are going to be a little bit more concepts heavy this week, and that's because this particular exam focuses more on concepts around ITSM and Jira. And I need to find a better place to put my head. So I'm going to shrink a little and just teleport over here. So on the left, you see the concepts. We'll do a little bit of hands-on, and I'll talk a little bit about the exam in Atlassian Learning. The next 3 sessions will be a lot more hands-on because those will deal much more with service management, Jira Service Management, than today will. All right. So I'm just going to drop a question in here. just to see what questions you have. And please use this as a way just to drop in a question to get my attention. You can, of course, put them in the chat. I just don't want to miss them. So I'll go through that questions container quite a bit. Now, the ACA-910 is the designation for this exam. I mentioned there's a lot of ACAs, so if I mention the wrong number, the one we're talking about is ITSM and JSM Foundations. The exam is broken into two parts. 70% of this exam relates to Jira Service Management. So that's why 75% of our sessions will cover it. The other 30% is around ITSM concepts and terms. These are important because they will help you understand why Atlassian built Jira Service Management, or JSM, the way they did. But more importantly, they will help you look up information or talk to other people about these concepts and ideas. And so part of this learning is to understand these general concepts and processes. So when you go out into the world and work in IT or HR support or whatever it is, you're knowledgeable about the why behind the system. You just don't know how to push the buttons. That's only part of it. You know why you should push them and when. Now, just a general question, and please put a response in the chat. Why are you interested in this course? And I'm not saying why do you want to earn the certification? That's a separate question. You might be interested in learning this just because you don't know what ITSM is, which I'll jokingly call ITSM sometimes. It's fun to pronounce acronyms. So ask yourself, why are you here? Like, why do you want to learn this stuff with Rob and the other 50 people in this chat? And if you're comfortable, please share it. And that can help inspire others and get others used to just thinking about what's going on. Now, my own personal why, I need to round out my skills. I'm also a bit of, it's called a completionist. I just like earning certifications. It drives my partner crazy. Oh, Emily H., thank you. Emily H. is one of my regulars and has also joined us in Discord, which I'll drop a link to. But Discord's another place to go get information in between these and chat. And Justin's, I can't prove you aren't the same person. Oh, wow. I'm getting so much, like, I also never thought that this kind of stuff would happen. I would be training on, what many people would think is a boring concept, like Jira, and folks think I'm so awesome. So thank you for that, Chris. Thank you for that, Emily. There's no wrong reason, and I'm seeing in the chat a bunch of great ones. Learn best practices, Noreen. That's a great reason. And this is especially true if your job requires you to use this. Like my path through IT was learn by doing, which meant I lost a lot of things. So I pursue these certifications to smooth out my skills, to expose my blind spots so I can be better. Justin R. has a great reason. I need to fix this little chat window. Took over IT service manager, need to get a better grasp of ITSM to support your team. So again, sometimes we end up in a job role that we don't have a background in or is new or there's something different. So your why is your own why, and it might change over time, but please keep it in mind. It can help, especially if you want to earn a certification, to write it down and to put it on a sticky note on your desk, just so when you consider what do I do next or getting up early to study or whatever, it's easier. But there's no wrong why. As long as you have your own, that's very helpful. So now we're going to transition to talking about ITSM. I'm going to drop a poll, and just how familiar are you, it helps if I spell it right, with ITSM. A 1 is low, and a 4 is going to be high. So if you're super comfortable, you might say a 4, and if you're like, I don't know what that is, Rob, you might just say 1. So you can just click on those numbers. They should just pop up right in the chat. And I'll leave that up for a little bit just so folks have an opportunity to vote. Now, ITSM stands for Information Technology Service Management. I left an acronym in the acronym, I'm sorry. In general, it's anything that will help support IT services. And so when we think of an information technology team, there's a ton that they do. And ITSM is the framework and structure that helps us do all those things. So that includes processes and activities. So ways of doing things and then actual things we're going to do. And just looking at the chat, many people are fairly familiar with it. Some folks, not at all. And Justin R. is trying to split the difference here. I kind of specifically took out, my big fat head's in the way. I'll go back over here for I specifically took out the decimals, Justin, just so folks didn't try to, split it too fairly, too finely. Now, great. IT service management is what it is. You might ask then, what is a service? Essentially, it's anything that IT or another team provides to support an organization. So, IT service management could also be HR service management. It could be a different group or team. So, it might be something HR provides to an org. This lens here, though, from information technology is easier for me to understand because, like, I came up through IT and I imagine many of us are in it. But these concepts and ideas can also be applied in different areas. And there's many examples of services. For example, stereotypically, IT is provisioning hardware. You join an organization and you need a laptop. You call up IT and they have a service. They have someone there who knows how to give you a laptop. Resetting a password. A service they provide might be an automated password reset. It doesn't have to be a human doing it, but it's something that the information technology organization handles. Managing access, making sure that systems are controlled. So it's not quite everything IT does, but it's many things that they do. And the important thing to remember is what they do to support some other group. So it's the things they do for other teams, organizations, or people that are their services. And there's three main principles. And those principles are collecting feedback, establishing some kind of vision, and then standardizing processes and how you operate. And these are three important things to remember. And if you take away only one thing from this, take away this slide. ITSM is all about, again, serving the customer, but how do you do that? Like, what's the first thing you do? You have to go collect feedback. You got to talk to people. You got to figure out what they need. You can't just start an IT department and sit there by yourself. You could. I don't know how successful it would be. You'd have to go to the VP of HR and say, what do you need to have successful new hires? You have to go to your director in finance and say, what do you need to close the books by the end of the month? You have to go to the people working in the shop saying, what kind of scanners do you need to, check in inventory? And this isn't something you can do on your own. This can't just be, I'll pick on the two Justins talking to each other in IT. You have to go to the customer, the person who you're serving. And you have to be active about it. Sometimes, if you're very, very lucky, your customer will come to you. You might not be very, very lucky, though. One thing I do want to point out in the chat, you'll notice people like Justin C. have a little crown. It doesn't show up in my little pop-up. This is new to YouTube. If you chat, you can become the #1 fan. So if you want to be the #1 fan, please keep chatting. So, okay, great. You've collected feedback. You've asked everyone what they need or how you should operate or who you should talk to. Next up is to establish a vision. What is the goal you're working towards? And this for me can be challenging because you need to think through, okay, what's it going to look like in a year to be successful, or 5 years? Or what kind of things do we want to be doing? And this is something in the future. It's not in the now, but it lets the team make decisions in the moment. If the team doesn't know what to do, they can look at the vision and go, oh, we're going to do that. Maybe the vision is to provide a seamless onboarding experience for new workers. And if they're making a decision on what piece of software do we get for our team, they can go, oh, what's our vision? Seamless onboarding. Okay, which one of these two things does that? Let's go do that one. So this vision is something that would come from typically the leadership of the IT team, but it gives everyone something to point at and say, we're going that way. That's the direction we're moving. Justin, it is not the first person in chat. You'll see the numbers changing as people chat. You can click, I think, on the crown. Justin, and Emily H. all have 75 points. I don't know how you get more than 75. I think that's the most I've ever seen. Then you have standardization. You've gotten feedback. What do we need to do? What kind of services do we provide? You have a vision. Where do we want to go? Then it's standardize. And IT is typically an operation. It's something that happens the same thing all the time. So if you can get a repeatable process every time a new hire joins, these exact things happen in this exact order, then every time someone's hired, those exact things will happen and support that person. It also reduces confusion. If I put in an information technology support ticket and I know it always goes in a certain way, then people know how it's going to go. Oh, great. And now people are just saying points in the chat. Oh, sorry, Justin R. I got you mixed up there. Right now, Justin R., you are #2. Um, it also, wow, it also removes cowbit. I clearly need a copy editor. It also removes doubt because people know exactly what's going on. Liz, thank you for that. I appreciate that. So Liz, you might have seen this in the chat, just donated to the channel essentially. That is one way to support me. A one-time, here's a couple bucks, Rob. Thank you for that, my friend. We have to be careful, though, to remove the cowbit. That's going to stay with me, isn't it? The doubt. So the standardization is, really in my mind, the overtime work. The vision might be something you establish once, but then the standardization, you're constantly looking at it. How do we make this standard? How does everyone know exactly what we're going to do? Vikram, welcome, my friend. Here's another fun question. How many ITSM practices can you name? And just drop in the chat whatever you think an ITSM practice is. And I will be honest, I had absolutely no idea what these were when I started learning this stuff. So take your wild guesses. If you know some, please put them in. But if you just want to guess whatever an ITSM practice is, just drop it in the chat so other people can see it. Emily brought their own crown. I love that. Liz, change management could be one. That's an awesome guess. SLA, SLA. Liz, what is a SLA? You dropped an acronym in there. Incident management, change management. Lisa, incident management. I like that answer. Emily H, managing crowns. We're not getting into monarchy here. Now, we're going to go over these practices. If you're going to sit this exam, you do need to know them. They're going to pop up. You don't have to memorize everything about them. And that's the nice thing about these ACAs. We just need to be generally aware that they exist because we'll encounter them when we use Jira Service Management. Now, these practices are activities that are involved in delivering services. That's a wonderful definition. But each provides a different area of focus, a different thing that we as ITSM practitioners can think about. And some of the things that people have added, incident management, change management, service, very close, Justin R. Number 3, Justin. Justin, number 2, problem management. Frank, we'll get to ITIL soon. And each one is a different way to approach supporting and serving a team. Now, the first one is incident management. Lior, NetOps, network operations. I like that answer. That is not an explicit one, though. These are a little bit more general. Now, what most people have listed will fall into one of these categories. Incident management, for example, is how do you handle an unplanned interruption in service? So an incident is something happens that wasn't intended. Whoops. Yesterday, I had an incident right before I jumped on a live stream with my friends at the Jira Live where my internet didn't work. I had to respond to that and quickly restore my service. So an incident is just something that occurs. Your email goes offline. A new hire's laptop stops working. An executive needs to do a big talk and they can't get online. All of those are examples of incidents. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and we'll talk about this, an incident is not the problem. An incident is what has happened. I love this. Automated documentation-based deflection of tickets. Okay. We've got asset management. I like that one popping up. The next one is service management. These are in no particular order, team. They're just in the order that I happen to put them in the slides. Now, services are things that deliver value to customers, and this is what most people think of when they think of IT. This would be someone putting in a request. Lior says, hey, Rob, I need to get access to a server. And they fill out a ticket, and I respond. This would be Frank putting in a request for a new piece of hardware or a training session or something I can go do. So this is what most people will think of, at least in my mind, when they consider IT. It's the visible part. It's the thing that most employees will be touching. It might not be the most attention-getting. In my mind, that's the incident management. That's the firefighter is going to respond to the big problem. But the service management is just kind of the day-to-day. Someone puts in a request, you respond. Problem management is the problems are the cause of the incident. So the problem could be a rat chewed through the power cable. That would be the problem. The incident would be the server went offline. Um, Total side story. I remember reading a news report where a company complained that their website went off every day at 5 p.m. and came back online every morning. It was because someone in the office would unplug the server hosting their website every night when they went home. So the problem would be that person unplugging the server. The incident would be the website doesn't work. um, so problem management is a review of what's going on to solve the problem. RCA's remote controlled activities, Justin? What's a remote controlled activity? Help me out. Um, and my head's blocking some of the text. I really need to fix my giant head. There we go, team. Problem management is a structured process of digging in to figure out what are the problems and then to solve them. So you've got a team that's responding to the incident. You've got a separate team who's going and digging in to see what happened. Change management is another important one, and this is one that I find many teams kind of forget about. And I say that because changes occur a lot, and we tend to think of changes as, I've got to give you a new laptop, like smaller changes or reconfigure a server. We forget about bigger changes like implementing a new system. For example, if your team is just starting to use Jira and they came from using Asana, they're going to need training. They're going to need enablement. They're going to need someone to come and guide them through it. Because the goal of change management is no disruptions. The team knows exactly what's happening, and the team can go in and use the new thing. So, why are we talking about picnics? Emily, can you remind us what a picnic is, please? Excuse me. So, change management is something that your org will do to help minimize the disruption of something that's planned, switching up or changing on your team. So an incident wouldn't necessarily be part of change management, but a regular, hey, we're changing our servers out. You don't want anything to go offline. You'd have to manage that carefully. And then asset management, which a couple folks, we got Frank calling it out, Lior calling it out, brought to our attention. Assets are anything of value to the organization. And this doesn't have to be a physical asset. Workers could be considered an asset. Stereotypically with information technology, we're considering our laptops, which is why I have a picture of these very generic looking laptops. I didn't realize that these just said laptop on them. I'm familiar with a PEBCAC, although I like picnic. That one's easier to say. What folks are putting in the chat are abbreviations to indicate that the human is the issue. Problem exists between computer and chair. Although, Liz, I think it would be a C and not a K, right? Oh, chair and keyboard. There we go. Now, asset management, the goal is just to accurately track and maintain assets. So you should be able to know at any point at any day how many laptops you have and who's using them, or how many licenses are being used for a certain system, or how many video conferencing tools are online and where they're installed. And then we've got knowledge management. This one also came up with some folks, and I'll see if I can quickly, Emily H. called it out. See if anyone else tagged it. This is one that Liz called out the knowledge management system. This is one that is easy to forget. We get caught up in the technology. Hey, let's go install these new servers and manage this incident and go help this thing. But how we manage our knowledge and what we learn is important. The goal here is it's easily accessible and stored. So this could be anything that the IT team learns. It could be customer-facing how-to articles. It could be detailed documentation on the configuration of your physical network layout and structure. So anything at all that your team needs to manage in terms of what it knows about its systems, its technology, its processes, its customers falls into this. It's really important. Now we get to kind of crash back into Atlassian. Up until now, we've been talking about more generic ITSM related stuff. And those, again, are all important things, especially if you're looking at doing the certification. But they're also useful if you're using any system. Even, a whiteboard that you just draw on would benefit from knowing what those things are. Excuse me. Atlassian, though, takes ITSM and blends it into their tools. And so I grabbed this diagram off their site that I'll show us towards the end of this session. But it explains how the different Atlassian apps, they're now called apps, they're not called products. Different Atlassian apps all tie into ITSM. So we can see in each of these steps how these things fall in. So Confluence, for example, they consider part of planning. Jira is part of building, along with Bitbucket, their code system. Delivering is Jira Service Management in Bitbucket. Operations, we've got Ops Genie and Status Page, and then support Jira Service Management. Now, this isn't saying you have to use all of these tools. This is just how Atlassian looks at its apps and says, hey, here's how each one can fit in to ITSM. So if your organization has these, this model is useful in understanding where they fall in the process and what they tend to be used for. All right, here's another poll I'm going to drop. How many steps are in the ITSM maturity model? And I'm just going to drop a quick quiz or a Q&A. Again, I'll be fully honest. I had no idea what this was when I started learning this certification and building out all this training. So please take your wildest guess, or if you want, drop in the chat another number or guess or approach. Oh, it is a nice dream, isn't it, Justin? Knowing how many devices you actually have. All right, most people think 3. I'll be honest, I don't even know if I put the right answer in the Q&A. I did not. It's 5. And that's a good reminder for me, right? Like, there are things that I have no clue about, and that we all have these blind spots. The IT maturity model, cool. It is 5. Liz called it out here. So this is something that, I have probably learned at some point in my career. Kari nailed it. But it doesn't come up very often, or if I learn it, I don't apply it. And that's something that's also important for us all to remember. I keep a notepad right here that I'm constantly writing down ideas and things, but my failure is I forget to go read it later. So I need to remind myself, go review what you've learned. And as you're moving through these trainings with me or other trainings, ask yourself, how can I apply what we talked about? So is there something that you could take from this training today, like figuring out where you are in this model, to go use? Justin thought the answer wasn't there either. Love it. So these 5 steps are initial, manage, define, standardized, and optimizing. And knowing where you are in here can just help explain kind of why things might be happening in your organization or what steps need to happen to improve things. So the initial stage, which is number 1, is you've basically got nothing. Justin used the Price is Right rules, closest without going over. Oh, that's a smart one. That's always a safe bet, especially with me. So many IT teams, when they first start or in smaller organizations, will just be very reactive. Someone comes into your office and says, hey, Justin, number 2, Justin, I need you to re-image this laptop for me. And you go, okay. There's no structure around how to do that. Again, typically we see this in younger organizations. So big companies will be further along just because they've had more time and more resources to put into how do we operate. They also tend to be low visibility. Folks aren't really sure, like, where is the IT team? How do I get support? What do I do? I worked at a place where the CEO would just kind of walk into the IT office and ask for help. So that's initial. That's the first step in our maturity. Orgs tend to quickly realize, hey, we need to improve. And then they get up to managed. The managed step is a little bit more mature. That's a silly way to say it because it's a maturity model. But this is where some basic processes are in place. You can't just go up to Justin number 3 and say, I need your help. You have to put in a ticket or send him an email or something. It allows the team to operate a little bit more independently. But the focus is still on, what are we doing today? I've got all these tickets in the queue. I just got to grind through them. The team in this phase, doesn't have a lot of energy or bandwidth to think through the vision. What are we going to do in 3 months? Or how do we make sure the server doesn't go offline? They're just trying to get it back up. Sachin, welcome, my friend. So manage is, again, that next step up. And this happens after the team finally realizes, hey, we can't do this whole come into my office whenever thing anymore. Most companies I've worked at have at least been managed, because most companies, after they get a few dozen workers, realize we can't keep drowning, our poor IT person in just not walking up to their desk. Defined is where most groups I work with happen to be or have been. And this is where things are a little bit more documented and defined. And I love how I use the word in its own definition, but whoops. This is where you might have a wiki, a Confluence site that details the processes to work with IT, or internally you might have documentation that explains how to do certain things. And it's where there's a more holistic view of what's going on. It's no longer just break fix, something breaks and you fix it. You might have a queue and you take time to analyze and figure out, hey, all of these problems seem to be an incident. Let's go figure out what the root cause is and answer it. Or, hey, we can see an issue coming up with this server. Let's fix it now before it becomes a problem. This is also where your team will be working with other groups to kind of start defining how do you operate with us. So the IT team at this step becomes a little bit more of an entity and less of just something that people dump work on. So this, again, is where most groups I've worked at happen to be, because our next step is standardized. And this requires an organization-wide process. So at the prior step, if we're talking about defined, within IT we might have processes set up, but other groups in our organization may not fully understand how to work with us, or we might have missed some. Once we're standardized, everyone knows, oh, when I go to Liz's IT team, this is how I work with them, and this is what I can get. And maybe there's even more official SLAs or agreements internally on how things work or how we should operate. Actually, let me drop another poll real quick. Just where is your team on the model? Let's see if I can remember them all. Initial, what was the second one? Whoops, wrong way. Manage, there we go. See, I don't even have it memorized. Defined and standardized. And last, I've got the same photo of these two gentlemen working with steel. The other thing with standardized is continual improvement. The team is no longer wholly reactive. They're actively looking for ways to do better. So they're making time to review tickets. They're trying to project out how many new hires do we get? How do we support people? Justin's saying, one of my favorite parts, going from managed to defined to standardized. Justin, I'm curious why that's your favorite part. Could you give us some more flavor? Like what is it like to be in that transitionary period? And how does it change your perception of the team or what you do? Now, the last step is optimizing. And you'll notice it's not optimized. Optimizing, it suggests to me that they're constantly improving. Like you're not done, right? You never have a perfect IT team. There's always something to do better at. And there's always ways you can come up with new methods of helping support people. So this is a step beyond standardized. This is where the entire organization, even without outside of IT, is helping improve things and continually addressing new methods and then implementing them. Justin's going to take the Price is Right approach and say defined. Okay, fair. About half of us are in standardized. Otherwise, it's a mix between the others. For those of you who are in initial, again, that can be challenging to work in because it's going to be so reactive. And that's this first step. There are some basic things you can do to help implement some process to get you closer to managed. Things like just implementing a basic queue, a basic ticket intake system can help. So almost anything you can do in there to get a process or a system in place will help you move up into managed. Okay, another question, and please drop in the chat. What does ITIL stand for? And only wrong answers, please. So if you know what it is, please give me a wrong answer. If you have no idea what it is, guess what this acronym is for. I like this answer, Justin. Working with leadership to define needs, building out, planning, implementing changes, and optimizing them as needs for change arise. It's a fulfilling feeling. Yes, because you can see it go, from that initial state or managed state up a level. You can see the change happen, and you can see people benefiting from it. It also just feels good to get in there and do it. You can look back and say, hey, look at what we did. All right, so any wrong answers on what ITIL is, and don't worry, I'll tell you what it does stand for. Yeah, I like that one, Liz. It's too involved logistically. And while we're considering what ITIL is, please take a minute and hit that like button if you haven't. So far, we have 2 likes, and there's 42 of us in here. So if that means 40 of you can take an opportunity just to click that little thumbs up for me. It takes IT longer. Infants taking initial lessons. Oh, I like it. Tonya nailed it. The IT Information Technology Infrastructure Library. We won't dig too much into ITIL right now. I like that one, Lisa. I think it's lunchtime. Uh-oh, one of the Justins has been dethroned. Both of the Justins have been dethroned. Now, we won't dig too much into ITIL right now. They have their own certifications, but they are tool agnostic. So they create best practices and frameworks for IT teams that don't focus on Jira or Asana or anything. So they give you a framework and ways of operating that you can then apply to whatever you're currently using. So you'll see ITIL pop up, especially when you work in IT. Specifically, just be aware that this exists. It does pop up on the exam, but it'll be more general questions around what is ITIL. This also came from Atlassian. IT Information Knowledge Service Strategies, I think is ITIC. But when we consider our processes and our services, we start with design, we then transition, we move into operations, we go into continual improvement, and we need some kind of strategy. Lisa stole 1 crown, Kari stole the other. So these 5 processes help the team operate. And again, we won't dig into each of these, but we need to be aware that we design the service, it then transitions into an operation. We then fall back into continually improving it, and then considering our overall strategy. What are we doing with this? Where do we want to go with all of this information and how we operate? That was a lot of slides. We're going to get a little bit hands-on. I'll talk a little bit more about the exam, but I do need some help with this. I've got a Google form just asking for your feedback on how the sessions are going, but also asking you what else you want to learn or what will make your learning better. Some examples that have come out of this include the Q&A and the questions. And so I'll just drop that link in the chat, or you can use this QR code. And I haven't seen anyone click on that questions bar yet, so keep the questions coming, and I'll do my best to answer them all. There's that white bar right at the top of our chat menu. And I think now I've got my teleport. Yep. I'm going to just pop over and talk a little bit more about the exam itself now. So that was all the information on ITSM. When we consider the exam, the best place to go for information is under Atlassian Community. They have Learning, and this is where all of their learning resources are. And they have a certifications menu. So I'm going to put the link to the certification in chat. But if you're browsing, it's under the Certified Associate. And then under ITSM with Jira Service Management Foundations. So this is Atlassian's official page. Excuse me. Now, this page has a lot of great information. It's got all the exam details. So this is all the information about the exam. What might be on it, what you could bump into, who it's for. Generally folks in IT, support managers, admins, etc. And then the exam topics. So again, this particular exam only really has 2 topics. 30% ITSM concepts, 70% Jira Service Management stuff. And again, we'll be digging into JSM starting next week. If you want to sit this exam, it does cost $100. The good news is many companies have a learning stipend. So talk to your manager if you want to sit the exam. There is an argument that this is a good certification if you're in these fields, because it'll build your skills and make you more effective. So many times organizations have a budget and are willing to cough up the $100 for you to take it. If and when you take it, you get 60 minutes to answer 30 questions. So if you're looking at taking the exam, you get 2 minutes per question. That's actually a lot of time. All the questions are 4 multiple choice answers, and you need a 72%. And I'm going to do some very quick math. 30 times 0.7. Whoops. Unless someone can do this in their head. You have to answer 22 questions correctly. Now, the mix of questions will vary, but you can expect about 70% of them to be about Jira Service Management, about 30% of them to be about ITSM. So that's where we want to get hands-on. Kari is also pointing out, in many of Atlassian's larger conferences, there are opportunities to win certification vouchers. At the last big event in Anaheim, you had to run around and do some little events, and then you got to take a certification for free, which was great. They will probably be doing the same thing. They'll be doing a conference in Europe in Barcelona in October. I'll be there if anyone's in the Barcelona area. I'd love to say hi. Now, you can take the exam in person, so you have to drive to a testing center or at home. I personally like to take them at home. It takes me about as much time to clean up my office and get ready for the exam as it would take me to drive there. So in my mind, the time requirements are about the same. The disadvantage, if you take it at home, you can't get up and use the bathroom in the middle. And you have to have a clean environment. No one can come in and interrupt you. If you do, you fail. And you can't get up from your desk at all. So if you go to this in-person sites, you typically can use the restroom. And it's a controlled area, so many people find that more easily. Bandit, how do I pronounce AQL? ACL. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Oh, I kind of like Liz's though. Quell. If you want to schedule it, there's information in here. I'll talk more about this in our review at the end. And if you earn it, or when you earn it, it's valid for 24 months. So you can do continuing education. Courses like this one count towards that. So you can renew your certification so you don't have to take it again. Now, down at the bottom of this page is an important link. Start preparing for free. That's Jake Will, Bandit Fist. If you're looking for some consistency with how I pronounce these, you're not going to find it. And under this link, adopt ITM practices to deliver exceptional service. You'll find Atlassian's official training. So this is another amazing resource. Please go through here and review these as well. These will help you understand these concepts and ideas. And these do also include some practice quizzes. If you go to the bottom of these, once I open the lesson, there's a couple layers in here. Wow. If you go to the bottom of these, you'll get some example questions. These will be similar to what you see on the exam. They won't be identical, but these will give you a good idea of, did you understand what they were talking about in the above information? So for me, these are always very beneficial to go through. And I think there is also for this one at the bottom, prep resources. So there's one other place you can go to get a last minute, what do you know about this exam? So some more sample questions in here. So these are just some of the resources you have available to help improve and explore your learning beyond just listening to me talk about it. Now, of course, another great way, and I'm going to switch back to talking head mode for a minute. Another great way to learn is talk to other folks. Go to your IT team and say, hey, what do we use in ITSM? Talk about those different phases of learning, those different stages, because that'll just help get the concept in your mind. That for me has been the best way to learn something. Find another human and talk to them. Another way you can do that, join us in Discord. There's a link in the chat where we've got a bunch of folks hanging out talking about these kind of concepts and ideas. We're not just in there talking about Atlassian certifications. We're talking about a wide range of Atlassian topics, including things like how do we manage things? What kind of horror stories have you seen in IT or in your job? So that's a great place to go to get additional support for this kind of learning. All right, I've got a few more slides. I mentioned earlier, I am now a freelance content creator, etc. So just putting it out there, there's different ways you can support and help ensure I can continue to do this and other great things for y'all. One way is I make a lot of Udemy courses, and I'll be making more. If you have a particular course you want to see, let me know. But this one in particular focuses on setting up a ticketing system and help desk. It uses Jira as an example, but it also focuses a lot on processes and generic things that you need to know how to do to successfully manage a help desk. So this coupon code will get you a nice deal on it. And if you see other Udemy courses of mine that you're interested in, please reach out either in Discord, shoot me an email, and I can give you a coupon code for those as well. And a special shout out, I partnered with Brittany Joyner, and we're going to be publishing a course on Trello for project managers soon. So be on the lookout for some fun things around that. But this is one way you can help support me and help keep me out of a 9 to 5. So I spoke about some of the study tips and next steps. Our next session will be next Friday, and we're going to jump into Jira Service Management, or JSM. We're going to be doing things like learning how to navigate and understanding just some generalities around Jira Service Management, because 70% of our exam is around that. It will benefit you if you have time between now and then to get into Jira Service Management if you aren't already, and start clicking around, just so you can see and experience it. For some of us, this might be a little bit like remedial or basic, but it's important information to learn, and I have learned new things when I go back through the basics. You can review this recording. It'll be available on YouTube. I'll have a playlist set up, and I'll also set up a separate web page just for the 910 with a collection of other resources to help us out. And of course, reach out. Jump into that Discord linked in the chat. Feel free to email me, robert@heen.tech. And if you do like this content, a big shout out to Liz for dropping a super, I think. Please support me that way. You can also become a member. I think I saw Sarah in the chat earlier, which gets you early access to videos, as well as some other things in the chat. So please consider supporting the channel that way. But of course, the easiest way is just click the like button. We're up to 8 likes, which is amazing. Justin, please go click around and prod. Just please be careful about delete buttons. When in doubt, don't push the button. Go ask someone. But that's about all the content for today. That's the ITSM chunk of this exam. I'm going to stay on for a bit. I've got some light jazz music I'll put on just to put something in that we can listen to. But otherwise, please keep dropping your questions. I'll stick around for a bit, but join us in Discord. I'll be there all the time, actually. And there was some interesting chatter around my misspelling of the word doubt earlier. But thank you all for joining. I really appreciate you learning with me. Oh, shoo. This, here, let me grab that. This is a local artist near where I live. Here, I'll switch to my whole talking head. And this is on a skate deck, so a skateboard. But thank you. I like that art. And I have this other skateboard that's got get out of the way, the dragon on it, so I figured I'd get another one. That doesn't sound like fun. See a button and click it. You can, Lisa. I can't. I warned you not, just to be careful anyway. Tonya, you're very welcome. I'll see if I can find a link to this artist online. They're local to, the Bay Area, California, at least. I found them in a coffee shop I go to. They just had art up on the wall, which is pretty neat. All right, no questions in my questions list. I'll get rid of that. Yes, Liz, what is your question, my friend? I have not yet. No, the next one I'll be doing is the 520. So we're studying for the ACP, the professional series, 520 on Mondays. Feel free to join me there. That one's a lot more in-depth. The ACA levels tend to be intended more for average users. The ACP levels are more for the admins. Noreen, you're very welcome. I'm glad you're able to join us, and have a great evening. I hope you get some sleep tonight. Oh, I forgot our music. Here we go. congratulations on passing benefits. Awesome. Frank, I need to dig more into company managed projects. I need to understand things like workflows a lot better before I attempt that one. All right, folks, I'm going to leave the chat open. But thank you all again. Really appreciate you joining me. Please remember to like the video up to 13 likes, which is amazing. We 6x'd on likes. But again, that's a great way to help support me. Otherwise, I will see you all Monday if you're looking for 520. But next week on Friday for more on ACA-910. I think I got the number right. All right, folks, have a great weekend. Oh no! Okay. Well, thank you, Frank. I thought it was low enough. Have a great weekend, folks. Thank you so much for joining. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon.